West Philippine Sea at China. Teves, hirap ipadeport. Putin, nanalo na. At marami pang iba. Kumusta for me? This is Avor Joseph and welcome to News I Deem Worthy Recap Weekly Edition number 44. We have tons to cover since last week, so skip to the timestamps provided if it piques your interest. Get maganda for the blazing selective summation. Here are some page news commentary for your convenience. West Philippine Sea at harassment ng China. Binomba na naman ang isang resupply boat na Uniza May 4 ng Pilipinas papunta ng nakaangkla at nakasadsad na BRP Sierra Madre, I think near somewhere in the Ayungin Shoal. Ang pinakamalapit na ito sa Palawan at kasama ng Kalayaan Group of Islands. I'm not really sure, pero anyway, in a worryingly unsurprising at normal violent encounter of the Chinese or with the Chinese Coast Guard against small Filipino boats na gusto lang magbigay ng, I don't know, groceries, kanin at tubig para sa mga nakadestinong tropa natin sa BRP Sierra Madre na nakasadsad sa again Ayungin Shoal. Ibinompa ang Uniza May 4 ng water cannon ng mga Chinese Coast Guard na bumasag sa windshield at sumira sa ilang parte ng kahoy na bato. Again, resupply ship lang siya, but still, there's a lot of people there and killing someone or even just wounding them should warrant some form of condemnation and even admittance of guilt from the part of the Chinese. Pero again, tayo rin ang biniblame nila because again, shut the fuck up. Paulit-ulit na lang ito. Walang magagawa ang daang-daang pag-condemn ng mga bansa sa mga aksyon ng China sa West Philippine Sea. Parang appeasement na lang ata ang gagawin dito dahil walang habas ang pangharas at pananakit ng Chinese Coast Guard sa ating mga mangingisda at sandatahang pangkaragatan. So basically what I'm trying to say is na kahit na sumama sa pagsuporta ang India at Western countries at ating mga kaalyado laban sa mga incursions o mini-invasion at harassment ng China, napaka-ineffective ng mga ito kahit ang mga inihain nating mga diplomatic protests ng Pilipinas o even ng UN. I think daan-daang protest na from 2015, I'm not sure, pero daan-daang diplomatic protest na ang hinihain natin and even in the UN, pero walang nangyayari. Puro slap on the wrist. Pero wala na. Yun lang yun. So yun nga, pinantayan rin ng isang helicopter ng China ang mga scientists at researcher na pumunta sa Pag-asa Island. Naglagay rin sila ng mga barriers sa Bajo de Masinloc o Scarborough Shoal upang pigilan ang mga resupply mission sa pinalibutang island chain. So basically naglagay sila ng parang rope, I guess, parang hemp rope siya na nilagay nila around the island chain para hindi makapunta yung mga barko kasi again makokot up sila. Kaya naman napakadahas ng mga pahayag at ang kapal ng mga pagmumuka. Ang ating mga tao ay naging profesional at maingat sa pagtanggal ng floating barrier sa Baho de Masinloc. I think last time naayon din ang ating claim sa West Philippine Sea batay sa proximity ng ating mga isla and not just because of the fuck UNCLOS. I don't care about UNCLOS anymore kasi it doesn't really help us for this matter. Talagang ang titignan lang natin is yung common sense. Napakalapit ng Pilipinas and Palawan for that matter, than China and Guangzhou and Beijing. Pero ayun nga, ang mga nasa Panatag Shoal o Scarborough Shoal ay nasa loob ng ating exclusive economic zone kung saan tayo ay may eksklusibong jurisdiction sa lugar ng pangkaragatan dahil ito ay 124 nautical miles sa gawing kanluran ng Zambales. I'm not sure, pero anyway, ang exclusive economic zone na ito ay mag-extend ng buong 200 nautical miles from our island. Kaya malaki yung natin kasi ang dami nating isla. Hindi lang sa UN tayo nakabase sa ating mga claim sa mga islang ito. Noong 1956, ang isang maglalayag, businessman at lawyer extraordinaire na si Thomas Cloma, if you know him, then you're a real one, ang unang nag-state ng ating claim sa lugar. Siya rin ang ating tinatawag bilang the modern Magellan of the Philippines kasi nga again, he staked our claim sa Pag-asa Island at nagbansag sa karagatan sa isla or at least yung islang ating pagmamayari bilang again Kalayaan Group of Islands. Simbolo ng ating sikap at lehitimong paggamit ng vicinity ng mga islang ito. It's ours. Last year pa itong mga pangharas at pananakit gamit ang water cannon ng China sa ating mga resupply missions papuntang BRP Sierra Madre. Pinailgate, pinalibutan, hinarang at binabangga pa nga ang Pilipinas para ma-deter ang magbibigay or nagbibigay ng supply sa mga nakadestino sa ating mga tropa sa again BRP Sierra Madre na isinadsad I think ni ERAP, I'm not sure, pero ayun na nga. Insecure sila dahil bumabagal na ang growth ng kanilang bansa at kapag nawala na yung langis or at least yung cog ng makinarya ng China, maaaring magkaroon ng social distrust or at least nagkakaroon na as of now ng social distrust, civil disobedience at pagkawala ng kanilang kayamanan dahil sa pag-bankrupt ng mga real estate businesses and banks or local banks kung saan ini-invest ng mga Chino ang malaking parte ng kanilang savings as again investment and not again as a commodity. Kumbaga, komunista sila pero ginawa nila yung isa sa mga pinaka-grave mistake ng mga kapitalistang bansa tulad ng US na ginagawang investment ang again real estate nila. Imbes na tira nila, well, pinaparenta nila or inaantay nila na dumago mismo yung city kung saan ay nakapaloob yung real estate na nila yon. Tapos ibebenta nila at a higher margin or price. Communism with Chinese characteristics by Deng Xiaoping. Insecure sila. Kaya lalo pa sila naging agresibo ay dahil kailangan nila ng distraction kapag nawala na yung social contract or at least yung kapalit ng samkalayaan na isusurrender ng tao sa mainland China ay yung unprecedented growth at living or lifting out of poverty ng bilyones kasi yun ang nangyari for I think 30 years. Simula nung nag-loosen ng control si Deng Xiaoping, sinabi nila, well, itatrade ko yung aking sum of my kalayaan for unprecedented economic growth at lifting again out of poverty ng mga bilyones. Isa pa sa mga dahilan ng kanilang pagiging agresibo, talagang gusto nilang makakuha or makuha yung kabuuan ng South China Sea, kung saan napakalaking porsyento ng world trade or at least yung world trade at mga shipping vessels ang dumadaan dito, lalo na't mas malapit ang Pilipinas sa Amerika sa leadership ni PBBM kaysa sa dating presidente Rodrigo Duterte. I mean, inamin pa nga ni dating presidential spokesperson Attorney Harry Roque na mayroong gentleman's agreement sina President Xi Jinping at then President Rodrigo Duterte na ipagpatuloy ang status quo. Kaya
nagkaroon kasi ng gentleman's agreement, no? Ito ay oral sa panahon ni Presidente Duterte na ang parehong panig, ang China at Pilipina, ay rerespetuhin ang status quo. Ibig sabihin, kung ano yung naroroon na walang dagdag, walang bawas. Okay. At dahil dito sa agreement na ito, sa tingin ko, nabawasan yung tensyon sa panig ng Pilipinas at ng China.
Nang binomba ng water cannon back in Duterte presidency, naghalit at pinatawag niya yung ambassador ng China sa Pilipinas kasi nga, we had a freaking gentleman's agreement. Kuno. Pero
so dun sa usapin na yun, lumabas na kaya nila winater cannon kasi ang kasunduan ng status quo hindi dapat magpapadala ng mga materyales for repair nung Sierra Madre. Okay. Nang matapos naman yung insidenteng yon, wala nang ganyang insidenteng nangyari. Wala pong naging kasunduan na tatanggalin ang Sierra Madre sa ayungin. Okay. Ang kasunduan, papayagan nilang dalhan ng tubig at pagkain, hindi nila haharangin.
Maalala rin nating naglabas ng official map kasama ang 10-dash line ang China last year to stake its claim sa karagatan ng disregarding the UNCLOS or United Nations Convention on the Laws of the Seas. At again, yung ating UNCLOS arbitral ruling noong 2016 at common sense dahil talagang napakalayo ng kanilang pinakamalapit na Coast Guard or at least yung coast para magkaroon ng lehitimong claim sa mga isla ng mga bansang may interes at legal na claim ng sa mga bansa or legal na claim ng mga bansa tulad ng Vietnam, Malaysia, and the Philippines, and Brunei for that matter. Pero kung gusto nyo gumawa rin tayo ng bagong mapa kung saan i-claim natin, hindi lang ang pinaigting na claim ng Pilipinas sa parte ng South China Sea at pati na rin sa Sabah under its arbitral ruling or at least because the arbitral ruling supports the sovereignty at claim ng sultanato ng Sulu dahil wala namang mawawala, di ba? I mean, nothing will change because again, hindi naman sa atin iyon, at least not for now. Makukuha natin yun of course if I become the president or when I become the president. Pero yun na nga, the fact of the matter is, kahit na lagpas 100 powerful at influential na bansa ang sumuporta sa pagkapanalo ng Pilipinas sa kanyang arbitral ruling against China's incursions in the West Philippine Sea, well, under the Conventions on the Laws of the Seas, it's still just that, agreement ng basic constitution through convention, or in other words, katulad ng Geneva Convention, although less serious, is just suggestions of the laws of the seas. Kasi nga again, it's just the UNCLOS or United Nations Conventions on the Laws of the Seas, which just goes to show you na hindi siya ganun kakongkreto katulad ng Geneva Convention, although less serious. It's just suggestions of the laws of the seas. Tandaan yung kasama ang China at Russia sa Permanent Security Council ng UN. So, walang pake at wala tayong magagawa. And that goes with United States na tinatanggal or binablock lahat ng hope for a peaceful ceasefire in the Gaza Strip against the Israeli Defense Forces that is apparently committing genocide against the Palestinian people. Kumbaga, alam kong mahilig tayo sa mga underdog movies kung saan makukuha ng bully yung nararapat sa kanya or yung kanyang kamapans and the protagonist will come out on top. Pero real life is not a movie. Kahit ibigay nyo lahat ng Senate resolutions, House resolutions, diplomatic protest, suporta ng Western countries at iba pang malalaking bansa, pati na yung mga UN resolutions, walang mangyayari. I mean, at most, a slap on the wrist. At alam kong sasabihin nyo, napaka-patriotic mo naman, napaka-defeatist mo naman, pero the fact of the matter is, and though I am not pro-China, wala tayong kapabilidad upang harapin ang China head-on, at least for now. Wala pa tayong resources or even political capital on the world stage to append the Chinese bullying tactics. And again, kahit na ibuli tayo ng ibuli ng China, well, hindi tayo worth ng geopolitical risk of the rift, or at least the widening of the rift between China and the US. Kahit na meron tayong mutual defense treaty with the United States, I don't think basta-basta na lang natin siyang magagamit para i-deter yung any aggression of China in the future. Kasi nga, again, they're already doing it, pero walang ginagawa yung US because again, hindi tayo worth ng geopolitical risk. Kumbaga, again, if Taiwan is being invaded, baka maybe that's where they will put their foot down. But again, just because the semiconductors are good doesn't mean that, again, they're worthy. At least they're worth that. But again, who knows? If our weapons are truth and reason, China's weapons are literal weapons and cannons. And for that matter, water cannons for now. So, sa totoo lang, ayokong kaawayin natin yung China. I mean, I like being friends with them. Napakalaki nila at will benefit greatly kung we'll all get along. I admire China and its leadership sa bilyones na taong lifted out of poverty, pero this is too much. We should also stay away from being a pawn of the United States of America dahil nga, first off, lumalaos and they'll most likely be a declining power as China takes charge, and not to mention na kung ang ating inilalaban ay ang ating soberanya at ang ating integridad ng ating mga teritoryo, ng ating mga eksklusibong paggamit ng natural resources according to the UNCLOS and common sense, okay, I should just strike out UNCLOS and just, again, common sense, napaka-contradicting nun, di ba? Kasi we bow down to the US while claiming that we fight for our freedom and our sovereignty. We should also stay away from using UNCLOS as our lone reason in asserting in the region our rights dahil again, it is just above shit. Teves Jr. hindi madedeport. Maalala natin last week, NIDW recap number 43, na nahuli na ng Timor-Leste's government si dating Negros Oriental or Occidental, I'm not sure, pero Arnolfo Teves Jr. representative with the cooperation of the Philippines NBI sa isang golf course kung saan siya yung nalalagi at naglalaro pa nga, di ba? I mean, just watch my previous video. Pero again, well, I made a boo-boo, or at least you think I made a boo-boo by saying na nakuha na ng Philippine government si Teves Jr. but that's where it's heading. Pero inaapelan ng team ni Teves na pagstayin siya sa Timor-Leste kasi again, inaapelan nilang he's a victim of political persecution dahil nga sa ilang parang designation sa kanya na siya'y guilty agad without trial sa pagpaslang kay deceased Governor Ruel de Camo because again, or at least he was assigned as a terrorist by the DOJ and Anti-Terrorism Council or ATC, I'm not sure. Pero pinatalsik siya sa House of Representatives dahil nga sinasabi nilang inabandono niya na yung kanyang posisyon at yung mga taong nire-represent niya as a representative nang hindi siya bumalik after going abroad and the aforementioned seeking of political asylum ng ibang bansa along with some quote lewd videos sa kanyang page, although why does that matter? Pero again, hindi rin siya umatan ng hearing kahit online, so that added to the doubt na siya nga ay isang upstanding citizen at hindi niya pinatikil or pinakitil ang kanyang political rival. And as we all know, also has, I think, I forgot his name, the attorney that Kiboloy also uses. So, dalawang pugante or at least dalawang hinahanap ng otoridad ang nagtatago under the saya or at least under the pants or shirt or suit of that lawyer. So, it's kind of weird. Pero it didn't help na nakakuha or nakuha sa property ng kanyang dating gobernador na kapatid ang ilang mga barel that was used or at least probably used in the assassination of Governor Ruel de Gamo, also known as the Pamplona Massacre, where nagbibigay siya ng, I think, mga 4-piece. Nangangako ang gobyerno ng Pilipinas na siya'y makakauwi ng ligtas at makamit ng hustisyang paglilitis despite the almost unanimous consensus na, here are some global/international news for your convenience. Putin wins Russian presidential election. President Putin secured another 6-year term as he wins his 5th term with 88.48% of the vote, his highest in his career at the 8th Russian presidential election since the fall of the Soviet Union back in 1991, with Boris Yeltsin kicking out or at least kicking out the last late Soviet Union's General Secretary Mikhail Gorbachev, dissolving the or at least the Soviet Union or United States of Soviet Russia, and taking over Russia for I don't know how many years, but again, it's the 8th and 5th term yun na. Putin won a decisive battle against multiple candidates such as Boris Nadezhdin, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Leonid Slutsky, Nikolai Karitov, and Vladislav Davankov, securing the mandate of the people for another term. Some agencies, nations, and organizations and journalists decry and claim the Russian presidential election to be neither free nor fair, as he had locked up his biggest opposition, Alexei Navalny, who mysteriously died under certain circumstances in a prison in Siberia, where he was seen weeks before Russian presidential election. The only person who posed real threat to the strongman's rule in the largest country in the world in terms of land size. You think, oh, this election must have been rigged and that it's a foregone conclusion that Putin would win. And I would agree to the latter part. I mean, it's a foregone conclusion that Putin will win, okay? That Putin will win and secure his 5th term as the president because he is still popular in the country despite many or numerous people saying otherwise. Not only primarily because he's what Western countries would call as a dictator, but the truth is he's still popular, and you might say there has been fraud reported in some of the ballots, but that's the case in every election, in every history. One vote isn't going to change the margin of which he won by. And you might say, but that's different, and there are credible accounts of election fraud. To that, I say, shut up. Okay, shut up. UN Security Council Ramadan ceasefire. The UN Secretary Council has approved a temporary ceasefire for the duration of Ramadan, with voting 14-1 with the US as the lone opposition to the much-awaited and long-overdue ceasefire between the Hamas and Israeli forces due to the overwhelming and international and political pressure amid one of the biggest humanitarian crises in the history, with some, or even I, claiming Israel committing genocide to the Palestinian people in Gaza by imprisoning them and starving them to death. A permanent ceasefire proposed by Russia, however, has been denied owing to the US opposition from any form of ceasefire, which is also goes to show that them having the permanent security seat in the UN Security Council is kind of weird. At yan ang pagtatapos ng News I Deem Worthy Recap Weekly Edition for roughly the 4th week of March 2024. Mag-suggest more topics and or corrections to the balitas if you feel I misrepresented them in any way. Salamat sa mga panood mga kabayang. For me, like, subscribe, and follow my links and socials and avoid Joseph that would be linked down below. Sa susunod muli, paalam. Psh!